The mountain rises like a silent sentinel, its peaks shrouded in mist and memory. Beneath its shadow, warriors have trained for centuries, not to conquer others, but to conquer themselves. Haru arrived with fire in his chest, a warrior eager for glory. Yet he carried a storm within, a restless spirit, a mind untamed, a heart burdened by fear and pride. He believed that strength lay in the sword and victory over rivals, in accolades earned. Master Sato watched him silently, eyes sharp yet calm, as if reading the very currents of his soul. "You seek power," he said, "but you do not yet understand what it means to be unshakable. Strength is not in the strike. Strength is in the stillness. It is in the moments no one sees." The warrior who masters others alone is weak. The one who masters himself is unstoppable. Haru's journey would not be marked by battles alone. It would be measured by silence, presence, and the relentless confrontation with the self. He would face fear, ego, and the hidden currents of desire that shape every choice. And through this crucible, the ancient system of the samurai would reveal itself, not as technique, but as transformation. This is the hidden path. The path where courage is forged in solitude, discipline becomes a mirror, and mastery rises from the invisible. Haru must walk it if he wishes to discover the unshakable strength that lies beyond fear, beyond pride, beyond the fleeting victories of the world. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and share so I can keep bringing you great content. Chapter 1. The Restless Warrior. The mountain rose like a sentinel above the clouds, jagged and silent, its peaks lost in drifting mist. Haru stepped onto the narrow path leading to Master Sato's dojo, his chest tight with anticipation and pride. He had trained for years, honing his body, perfecting every strike, every stance, but the restless fire inside him refused to be tamed. Strength, he believed, was in skill, in victory over others, in the glory that comes from recognition. He thought he was ready. Sato's eyes, calm yet piercing, met his before a single word was spoken. "You carry a storm," he said, voice deep as stone, "and you seek a sword to quiet it. But the fiercest battle is not fought with steel. It is within." Haru frowned, heart racing. "I have trained to fight," he replied. "Is this not what makes a warrior?" Sato shook his head. "The training without awareness is like striking the wind. You will cut nothing but illusions." The first day passed in silence. Haru sat upon the wooden floor of the dojo, legs crossed, eyes open. The emptiness around him seemed to expand, pressing against his mind, demanding attention. Thoughts surged, impatience, fear, doubts, the need to prove himself. He felt assaulted by the very self he had spent years avoiding. Time blurred. Minutes became hours, and the fire of restlessness rose within him, coiling like a serpent. He tried to focus, tried to summon the discipline that had carried him through physical trials, but the mind resisted. Every memory, every desire, every failure rose to the surface. He realized for the first time that all his victories, all his feats of strength, had been distractions from what truly needed mastering, the chaos within. Sato's voice broke the silence. A strength is forged where the body cannot reach. Courage is measured in the ability to sit unmoving with the storms of the mind. Only by observing yourself without flinching will you discover the path to unshakable power. Haru inhaled deeply. His chest rose and fell with the rhythm of awareness. Slowly, reluctantly, he began to notice the patterns, the tension in his shoulders, the quickness of his breath, the racing of his thoughts. Each observation was a strike, not at an enemy, but at his own illusions. Fear was revealed, not in the absence of skill, but in the attachment to outcomes, and the hunger for recognition and the unexamined restlessness of his spirit. Days became a rhythm of silent practice. Haru rose before dawn, walked the paths of the dojo with measured steps, attended to the fire. The body, once the vessel of pride, became the instrument of awareness. Movement, when it came, flowed from calm, not impulse. Each breath was deliberate, each glance intentional. The fire inside him dimmed, tempered by observation, patience, and presence. Sato approached him one evening, the sky blood-red behind the peaks. "You have seen the restlessness within yourself," he said. "You have felt fear, impatience, and pride claw at your chest. This is the first victory, to confront the self honestly, without defense, without distraction. The warrior who masters others alone is weak. The warrior who masters himself cannot be moved by storms outside or inside." Haru knelt, sweat cooling on his skin, and allowed the words to sink deep. He understood that discipline was not merely physical exertion. It was the labor of presence, the quiet effort to remain conscious, the willingness to observe and endure. The dojo was not a training ground for combat alone. It was a crucible for the mind, a forge for the spirit. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the courtyard, Haru realized that the restless warrior within him had met its first challenge. The body was trained, yes, but now the mind, the unseen self, had begun its trial. He had tasted the difficulty of stillness, the subtle struggle of facing fear and impatience, and the small but profound victory of observing without reacting. Soto's parting words lingered in the evening air. Every strike you make in life must come from presence. Every choice must emerge from clarity. Today, you have begun to carve the foundation of strength that no opponent can touch. Tomorrow, we walk further into the depths of the self, and the next lessons will demand courage beyond the blade. The mountain whispered around him, and Haru felt the first stirrings of a warrior no longer driven solely by ambition, but by disciplined awareness. The path to unshakable strength had begun. The dawn was pale and quiet when Sato led Haru through a narrow path winding deep into the forest. Mist clung to the trees, curling around trunks like restless spirits. Birds called in distant echoes, yet the world felt hushed as if holding its breath. At the heart of this secluded grove lay the mirror pond, a still pool of water revered by generations of warriors. Its surface reflected not the body, but the soul, every fear, pride, and hidden desire. Haru knelt at the edge, staring into the water. At first he saw only his reflection, sharp jaw, calloused hands, shoulders taut with discipline. But as the morning light shifted, the surface shimmered and another image emerged, one he had long avoided. A boy, trembling, eyes wide with uncertainty and shame. Fear draped across his shoulders like a heavy cloak. The pride he had carried to mask insecurity now appeared fragile, hollow. The realization struck Haru like a blade. All his outward strength had been a veneer, a shield against the truths he refused to face. Sato's voice was calm, almost a whisper over the rustling leaves. This is your fear. The warrior who ignores it will be shattered when it rises. But the one who names it observes it and dissolves it. He becomes unshakable. Haru swallowed hard, fighting the urge to look away. The water did not forgive avoidance. He felt humiliation rise, hot and stinging, yet beneath it, a spark of clarity emerged. Fear was not an enemy to destroy, but a compass pointing toward the parts of himself that required attention. Every tremor of pride, every restless impulse, every unexamined desire became a lesson waiting to be learned. For hours, Haru practiced the ancient method Sato taught, observing fear without judgment, tracing its origins, and breathing through the tension it created. When jealousy flared at memories of rival warriors, he noted it without anger. When doubt whispered of failure, he let it pass like a leaf floating downstream. Each observation was deliberate, each breath a strike against ignorance. Slowly, the turbulence inside him began to settle, the water within mirroring calm rather than storm. Sato spoke again, his voice carrying a weight of authority and compassion. Most men run from fear. They fight externally to distract from the battles inside. But mastery is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to sit with it, to understand it, and to let it guide rather than control you. Haru's mind, once a torrent of restlessness and aggression, began to feel the rhythm of presence. He understood that the boy in the reflection was not weak, but human. Strength did not mean crushing this part of himself. It meant acknowledging it, embracing it, and learning. The mirror pond became a teacher, each ripple a lesson, each wave a reminder that self-awareness was the foundation of unshakable strength. The sun climbed higher, illuminating the forest canopy. Haru rose from the edge of the pond, shoulders straight, breath steady. Though humiliated by the raw truth he had seen, he felt lighter, as if shedding the weight of illusion. The lesson of fear was no longer abstract. It had been lived, observed, and accepted. Courage, he realized, was not in denying vulnerability, but in facing it unflinchingly. Soto placed a hand lightly on Haru's shoulder. The path to mastery passes through fear. You must walk it repeatedly. Each reflection will show new truths. The warrior who conquers himself sees clearly. The warrior who refuses sees only shadows. Haru nodded. The forest around him seemed to exhale, the mist lifting slightly as if acknowledging the transformation. He understood that mastery was not a final state, but an ongoing journey, one in which presence, courage, and self-awareness would guide every action. Fear, once a hidden enemy, had become a compass, pointing toward growth, clarity, and strength. As they left the mirror pond and returned to the dojo, Haru carried a new understanding. Strength alone could no longer define him. Awareness of self and the courage to face every shadow would determine the warrior he was becoming. The path ahead promised more trials, but now he walked with a quiet certainty, knowing that fear, once acknowledged, was no longer a chain, but a guide. The morning sun filtered through the dojo's papered windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the quiet air. Haru rose with the rhythm of the mountain, but the lessons of the mirror pond lingered. Fear had been seen, named, and accepted, yet pride still clung stubbornly to his shoulders. Master Sato's next challenge awaited, not in combat, not in skill, but in humility. The strength is not measured by your victories over others, Saito said, his voice deep and unwavering. It is measured by your willingness to serve, to surrender the ego, and to act without the expectation of recognition. Haru's first task was deceptively simple: carry water from the mountain spring to the dojo, filling each basin with precision and care. His muscles strained, but the true challenge was not physical. With each trip, his mind rebelled. He wanted speed, efficiency, acknowledgement. He longed to be praised for diligence, yet Sato observed silently, and Haru learned quickly that the presence of another watching or waiting was irrelevant. The task demanded focus, care, and attention, not ambition. Next, he tended the gardens. Every weed uprooted, every stone arranged, every seed planted was a meditation. The work was repetitive, mundane, and at times frustratingly slow. Yet in the rhythm of labor, Haru began to notice subtle truths. Each plant responded to gentle attention. Each flower opened only when given patience. Pride diminished as presence expanded. The act of serving the dojo, of engaging fully with the simplest tasks, became a forge for the spirit. Sato introduced Haru to the novices, children, and young disciples who looked up to him not as a master, but as a fellow student. Haru bowed, helped and listened, not out of obligation, but with genuine awareness and humility. The lessons of the dojo were now beyond technique. They were lived through service. Every act of patience, every moment of deliberate attention, chipped away at the ego that had long demanded recognition. Through these tasks, Sato guided Haru toward Muno Kokoro, the empty heart. Actions were no longer to impress, to win, or to assert power. They were expressions of presence flowing naturally from awareness rather than desire. Haru learned to observe himself as he moved. Tension in the shoulders, restlessness in the mind, impatience in the heart. Awareness became a constant companion, a mirror reflecting truth rather than ego. Yet the path was not without struggle. Haru's mind resisted, stirring resentment and frustration. Why must he bow to novices? Why waste time with sweeping floors and hauling water? His pride flared, threatening to undo the lessons of fear and presence he had fought so hard to internalize. But each rebellion became a teacher, exposing the depth of his attachment to recognition, control, and status. Humility was not given. It was earned through surrender and mindful labor. In the quiet moments between tasks, Haru observed the mountain itself. Stones worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain, trees bending without breaking, streams flowing endlessly. Each a testament to power achieved through patience, flexibility, and presence. The mountain became a silent instructor, reinforcing the principles Sato had instilled: discipline, awareness, and the relentless practice of humility. Weeks passed. The repetitive labor, once a source of frustration, became a conduit for inner strength. Haru noticed changes in his mind. Impatience softened, focus deepened, and a quiet confidence emerged. The body, trained for combat, now served the mind and spirit. Each step, each gesture, each breath became intentional, integrated, and full of presence. By the final day of this phase, Haru was no longer the same restless warrior who had first arrived. His strength had been tempered not through strikes or victories, but through acts of humility, patience, and service. He had begun to collapse the illusions of ego, replacing them with a disciplined awareness that flowed naturally into every action. Sato's gaze met his. A true mastery arises not from addition, but from subtraction. Pride, attachment, impatience. These are weights, remove them, and presence emerges. Every act of humility, no matter how small, is a strike against the ego. Remember this, Haru. Strength without presence is hollow. Presence without strength is wasted. Haru absorbed the words, letting them root deeply. He He understood now that the path to unshakable strength required more than physical skill or courage. It demanded surrender, awareness, and a continuous dismantling of the self that sought approval and recognition. Only then could the warrior move unshakably, guided by discipline and spirit rather than desire and ego. As dusk fell, Haru sat by the garden, watching the last light settle over the mountains. Each task completed, each act of service rendered had transformed the restless fire within him. Humility was no longer a burden. It was the foundation upon which strength and presence could be built. Thunder rolled across the mountain peaks as a violent storm descended, draping the dojo in sheets of rain and howling wind. Haru followed Master Soto along the slick stone path, his cloak soaked, his pulse quickened not by exertion, but by anticipation. Tonight was unlike any previous trial. Tonight, he would face the raw essence of his own spirit, unshielded, unguarded, a crucible that had shaped generations of warriors before him. Soto led him to the Hall of Severing, an ancient stone chamber carved into the mountain itself. Its walls were etched with the marks of time, the scars of those who had sat here before, confronting themselves with courage and discipline. Candles flickered along the edges, casting elongated shadows that seemed alive, stretching and bending in the storm's rhythm. The silence inside was absolute, broken only by the echo of raindrops and the distant rumble of thunder. "You will sit through the night," Soto instructed. "Alone, without guidance, without comfort. All that you have avoided, the fear, the regret, the pride, the desire, will rise to meet you. You will face it or it will consume you." Haru entered the hall, knees bending as he lowered himself onto the cold stone floor. The chill seeped through his robe, a physical discomfort he welcomed, for it tethered him to the present. The first hour passed slowly, the only sound the drip of water from the vaulted ceiling. Thoughts surged immediately, failures from his youth, his moments of cowardice, the endless yearning for recognition and approval. The mind screamed to flee, to distract itself with imagined battles or future triumphs. But Soto's words anchored him: presence, awareness, endurance. The night deepened. Shadows flickered and stretched, twisting into visions of the boy he had seen in the mirror pond, of rivals he had envied, of every act of pride that had defined him. Shame pressed heavily against his chest, and for a moment he feared he would break. But he breathed deliberately, drawing the air deep into his belly, letting it circulate through his mind and body. With each breath, he observed the fear rather than denying it. Each thought became a stone laid upon the foundation of his inner discipline. Hours passed, and the storm outside became a symphony of chaos mirrored within. Haru confronted memories that had long been buried. Moments of betrayal, humiliation, and loss. He confronted impulses of anger and desire, the restless need to prove himself, the hidden arrogance that had governed his actions. Every sensation, every memory, every shadow was a teacher. The Hall of Severing was no longer simply a room. It was a mirror of the self, reflecting with brutal honesty the patterns he had carried. Pain and exhaustion intertwined. The body ached from immobility, yet surrendering to discomfort was itself a lesson. The mind strained against the torrent of fear, yet the act of observation tempered the storm. Haru realized that this was the essence of the ancient system. Discipline was forged not in comfort, not in triumph over others, but in the relentless confrontation with one's own spirit. By the last hours of the night, a profound clarity began to emerge. Haru felt the tight grip of ego loosen. Fear, once a raging torrent, became a steady stream he could observe without panic. Regret transformed into insight. Shame became awareness. The storm outside and the storm within aligned in rhythm. And for the first time, Haru experienced the stillness that underpinned all strength. The quiet, unwavering presence of a warrior who had faced himself completely. When the first light of dawn crept into the hall, painting the stone floor with pale gold, Haru rose. His body was weary, his muscles stiff, yet his spirit felt lighter, unburdened. He had survived the night not through avoidance or distraction, but through presence, discipline, and courage. He had endured the inner battlefield, faced every shadow, and emerged transformed. The restless warrior, the boy clinging to pride and fear, had begun to dissolve, replaced by a being tempered in the crucible of self-confrontation. Soto's voice entered the hall quietly, a calm affirmation. Every battle you fight in the world is a reflection of the battles within. Tonight, you have seen this truth. The warrior who conquers himself carries strength that no external force can diminish. Remember this, Haru. Mastery begins here. Haru stepped outside, feeling the storm's last rain upon his skin, the cold cleansing, the wind invigorating. The mountain around him seemed stiller, watching silently, acknowledging the transformation. For the first time, he understood the depth of the path he had chosen. True strength was not in the sword, not in victories over others, not in the recognition of the world. It was in courage, presence, and unflinching awareness of the self. As he returned to the dojo, drenched, exhausted, yet profoundly alive, Haru knew the next phase awaited. Refining this raw, awakened spirit into deliberate action, integrating body, mind, and presence. The night had severed illusions, but mastery required cultivation. The morning after the storm was unlike any other. The mountain was washed clean, the air crisp, and the scent of wet pine filled the dojo courtyard. The night of severing had carved a hollow in his spirit, a space where fear, regret, and pride had once lived unchecked. Now, he felt a stillness beneath the bones of his body, a calm presence threading every step, every breath, every glance. Master Soto watched silently from the veranda. Stillness, he said, is the crucible of true mastery. Strength without it is wild. Stillness without it is hollow. You have faced the chaos within. Now you must learn to carry it in harmony with your body and your actions. Haru began with deliberate movement. Each step across the dojo was measured, rooted, attentive. The sensation of weight, of balance, of gravity against foot and floor became a meditation, where before his strikes had been fast and reactive, now they emerged from intent. The muscles moved with awareness, not urgency. The mind observed rather than commanded. The warrior had learned to wait, to feel the rhythm of his own presence before acting. Soto introduced new exercises. With the wooden bakken in hand, Haru practiced slow, deliberate strikes against a training post. Each motion was exact, minimal, precise. There was no rush, no flash of ego-seeking recognition. The strike became an extension of his presence, a dialogue between mind, body, and spirit. Mistakes were not failures. They were teachers, revealing where attention faltered, where impatience seeped in, where old habits of reaction lingered. Haru also trained in observation. Watching other disciples, he noticed subtle shifts in posture, the rhythm of breath, the micro-expressions of intent. He began to anticipate movement without rushing, to respond without desire, to act decisively yet without attachment to outcome. Muscles and mind became instruments of conscious attention, guided by an inner calm rather than impulse. The lessons of stillness extended beyond the dojo. Daily tasks, carrying water, tending the gardens, walking along mountain paths, became exercises in integration. Each motion was an opportunity to synchronize breath, posture, thought, and intent. The fire of restlessness no longer drove him. It had been transformed into awareness. Haru realized that presence was the foundation upon which every choice, every strike, every movement must rest. Strength now flowed through intention, not aggression. In these weeks, Haru experienced subtle yet profound shifts in perception. He could hear the rhythm of the wind through the pines, the subtle echo of his own breath, the minute tension in his body before a movement. He felt his mind settle into a calm reservoir, from which thoughts could rise and fall without dragging him into turbulence. Awareness had become habitual, a constant companion in all action. Soto guided him in meditation at the peak of the mountain. There, with the world below wrapped in mist, Haru felt the unity of body, mind, and spirit. The stillness was not passive, it was active, alive, and dynamic. It carried the power to act decisively, to meet challenge with clarity, to remain unshaken by circumstance. The lessons of fear, humility, and presence coalesced into a living discipline. The warrior was no longer reactive. He was fully present, fully masterful, fully alive. Yet Haru understood that mastery in stillness was not an endpoint, but a continuous practice. Each day brought new distractions, new impulses, new shadows to confront. The discipline he had cultivated required vigilance and consistency. The dojo, the mountain, the mirror pond, the gardens, they were all tools to refine awareness, each act an opportunity to integrate strength and stillness. By the final week, Haru's movements were deceptively simple, yet charged with presence. A single step, a single strike, a single bow carried the weight of deliberate awareness and disciplined intention. Those who watched him could feel it, though few could name it. Master Soto nodded quietly. This is the path of the true warrior. Action born of stillness is unshakable. Presence is your weapon. Awareness is your shield. Let them guide you always. Haru felt a deep satisfaction, not born of recognition, but of alignment. The restless fire of ambition had been tempered, redirected into mindful energy. His strength had been refined, not in speed or force, but in focus, patience, and deliberate action. The warrior he had been, the one who sought victory over others, was gone. In its place stood one who had mastered the inner currents of fear, ego, and impulse. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, Haru walked through the courtyard, each step steady, measured, and present. The path ahead would test him still, for the world beyond the mountain demanded action and decision, often under pressure. But he was no longer driven solely by desire or fear. He carried stillness within him, a calm center that anchored every motion, every thought, every breath. The morning mist clung to the mountain peaks as Haru stood at the edge of the dojo's path, gazing down toward the valley. The world beyond waited, chaotic, unpredictable, and unconcerned with the discipline he had honed in solitude. Yet for the first time, Haru felt ready, not because he had achieved accolades or proved himself in combat, but because he had mastered what truly mattered, himself. Master Soto approached silently, his presence calm and unyielding. The world rarely notices what is essential, he said. A strength, courage, and mastery often pass unseen, but the warrior who carries them quietly within is unstoppable. Haru nodded, understanding the gravity of the words. Every trial, every hour of meditation, every moment spent confronting fear, humility, and stillness had prepared him for this. The sword he carried was sharp, but the sharper edge was forged in his mind and spirit. The invisible victories, those unseen by spectators, were far more profound than any triumph on the battlefield. As he descended the mountain path, the air crisp with the scent of pine and stone, Haru noticed the small details with unprecedented clarity. The curve of the trail beneath his feet, the rhythm of his own breath, the distant murmur of the river below. Each observation grounded him, a reminder that mastery was not measured in feats or recognition, but in presence. He moved deliberately, every step carrying intention, every gesture infused with awareness. Haru recalled the mirror pond and the boy reflected in its waters, trembling with fear and pride. That boy had not disappeared. He was integrated, tempered, and understood. Fear was no longer a master, but a guide. Humility was no longer an obligation, but a natural expression of his presence. The restless fire that had driven him had transformed into a steady flame, illuminating each choice with clarity. Passing villagers, Haru offered polite bows, small acts of acknowledgement and respect, neither seeking praise nor evading recognition. His movements were unhurried yet purposeful, carrying the calm authority of one who had faced the storms within. Even in simple actions, the principles of Bushido, the disciplined mind, the courageous heart, the refined spirit, manifested in subtle but undeniable ways. Sato's teachings resonated in every fiber of his being. Strength was not shown through loud gestures or conquest, but through the quiet alignment of thought, action, and presence. Mastery was not performed for others. It was lived internally, shaping choices, reactions, and the way one met the world. The true warrior's path was invisible, yet its effects radiated outward in every interaction, every decision, every movement. Haru paused beside a small village stream, watching the water flow around stones worn smooth over centuries. He understood that mastery, like the river, was not about force but consistency, direction, and presence. The flow of life could not be controlled, but one could navigate it with awareness, responding rather than reacting, acting with intention rather than impulse. Each choice became a reflection of inner strength, an extension of the discipline forged in solitude. The mountain behind him stood silent, a witness to his journey. Haru carried its lessons within. The fear faced at the mirror pond, the humility learned in daily labor, the courage honed during the night of severing, the presence cultivated in stillness. Each had been invisible in its moment, yet together they formed an unshakable foundation. The external world might never recognize it, might never witness the depth of the transformation, but it existed, absolute and enduring. As Haru walked into the broader world, he encountered challenges that would have once ignited impatience, fear, or pride. Yet now each circumstance was met with calm observation and deliberate action. His mind was steady, his spirit clear. He moved with the knowledge that the true battle is always internal, and that conquering oneself grants freedom from the chaos of external forces. Sato's voice echoed in memory, quiet but authoritative. The world rewards spectacle, but mastery rewards the soul. Carry your discipline, your presence, your courage silently. Let the victories that matter remain unseen, yet felt in every step you take. Haru breathed deeply, feeling the mountain air expand his chest, grounding him in the present. The warrior he had been, the restless, impatient seeker of outward strength, had been transformed into one whose power was calm, deliberate, and invisible. The sword in his hand was a tool. The true weapon was his mind. The true shield was his spirit. The path ahead was long, uncertain, and uncelebrated. Yet Haru walked it willingly, carrying within him the ruthless, silent mastery of the samurai. Every decision, every movement, every breath reflected the lessons learned. Courage born of fear faced humility cultivated through service. Presence maintained through discipline, strength anchored in stillness. And so he descended unseen but unshakable, a man who had conquered himself and carried that victory quietly into the world. No accolades awaited, no applause followed, but the warrior's spirit, tempered, aligned, and disciplined, would endure beyond sight, beyond recognition, beyond time. The greatest victories are internal and invisible. Unshakable strength is forged in the silent mastery of self through courage, discipline, presence, and humility.